Thank you.
Maybe this would be a good transition point just for a brief conversation about what went on with the Deerfield wind project and mitigation.
So Deerfield wind has a long history. It started probably over 15 years ago when the department started to get involved with discussions with the U.S. Forest Service about a project that was proposed to be built on U.S. Forest Service land. And when the department participated in the Public Service Board proceeding, because that's what it was called at the time, it wasn't the Public Utility Commission, we opposed the project on the basis that it would have it would significantly imperil or destroy necessary wildlife habitat, black bear habitat. And the Public Utility Commission did not, frankly, rule in the way that the department would have preferred. They issued a decision in which they approved the project. They issued a certificate of public good for the project. They found, based on our testimony, that there was 36 acres of bear-scarred beach that were removed as a part of the project, so that was a direct impact. And that, and then they imposed 144 acres, which is a mitigation of 4-to-1, on the developer. They basically said, you have to go out and find and conserve 144 acres of bear-scarred beach. The project took a long time to get online, and part of the reason for that is that it went through a NEPA appeals process in federal court, so it did not become operational until I believe, yes, until December of 2017. The department decided that it wanted to take some charge over what that mitigation would look like. And we have closed on 2 projects in the general area of that project. One is in Stratton and Jamaica, Vermont. It is 648 acres.
That's what's illustrated on the screen.
That's what's illustrated on the screen. There are 100 acres of bear-scarred beach. There are 51 acres of wetlands, which entail important bear feeding habitat. And there's over a mile of common boundary with previously conserved property. And the reason why we identified this particular parcel as a good one is because it's a parcel that had been identified early on in an Act 250 proceeding as having important bear habitat and being an important bear corridor. And so this was a forest legacy project, but as part of the acquisition of the conservation easement on that project, we were able to get language in the conservation easement that provided for special treatment areas for the bear-scarred beach and for the wetlands and for all of the riverine corridors on the parcel, so that we could have some control over the management of that parcel to conserve bear-scarred beach and black bear habitat. The second parcel that we have, oh, go ahead.
Was that compensation for which wind project?
That was for the Deerfield wind project. The second parcel that we have closed on is, that's just another illustration of the Stratton one. is in Grafton and Athens.
While you're transitioning, was the first one within the like 12-mile range that the bear could transition to?
So that's a great question. I don't know exactly how far it is away from the Deerfield Wind Project,
Right.
but I can get that information for you. I can tell you that it is within the range of the collared bears that were part of the bear study that was part of
Mhm.
the.
That's good now.
So-
Yeah.
It is within that area.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, not all of the bears, but
No.
some of the bears.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some bears are smarter than others.
And males tend to have broader ranges than females. But
Yeah, we do.
I'll let a bear biologist come in and talk to you about that, because I'm not a bear biologist. This is a parcel that has 44 acres of bear-scarred beach, but this is one that is also adjacent to the Turner Hill Wildlife Management Area. And that was one thing that made it attractive to us, because it's 158 acres, and it has more integrity as a habitat feature, because it is next to another very large conserved parcel. There's lots of wetlands on it. I was very fortunate in that I got to go out in the field. I never get to go out in the field, but I got to go out in the field and walk transects with the wildlife biologists. And not only is it full of bear-scarred beech, but it is full of cherry and oak. And the transects revealed that it's 99 acres of good mass stand for bear. So not just beech, but other types of food sources. So those are the two that we have closed on. All in all, that's over 800 acres, about 200 acres of mass stand for bear. So it's more than what the Public Utility Commission imposed on the developer. It's true that 35 acres will always be gone, at least as long as that wind project is in existence. But we think that we did make lemons out of lemonade, if you will, and try to conserve some really good parcels with the mitigation money that we got. In addition, we still have a significant chunk of change left. We have about $600,000 to purchase additional bear-scarred beech or bear habitat. We're working on that. I can't give the committee a lot of detail about that right now. We're hoping to have something that we can make public sometime fairly soon, but it's a legitimate complaint that this has taken a long time. The project itself took a long time to get online, but I think in the end we will have conserved more property than the Public Utility Commission, sort of gave us as part of their decision to begin with.
Okay, we need to move on, so I'm gonna ask if there's any questions from the committee.
Quickly,
Yeah.
I think I just learned that the PUC gives you a budget or tells the project owner that they have to spend a certain amount.
No, this is very unusual.
Okay,
Usually what the Public Utility Commission does is it tells
Area.
the developer that they have to conserve a certain amount.
4 to 1 or whatever.
4 to 1, 2 to 1,
Yeah.
whatever it is on site.
Yeah.
If that's where if compensation is where they're going.
Right.
And like I say, that's not always the case. We have a lot of cases where it's avoidance and
Oh, sure.
minimize and we never get to
But it
compensation.
sounded like you still had some dollars to spend from that, so.
We do, for this one.
This is a unique case in
Okay.
many respects, and you can't overstate the fact that it was the agency's position initially that the project shouldn't be permitted because the character and condition of the habitat was so regionally unique that no impact should be allowed, and we didn't prevail. And so the Public Utility Commission, as Catherine explained, set out this process that they thought was appropriate for mitigation. Quite honestly, we didn't agree with it. We didn't want another bear study. We'd already done a bear study. We did an extensive bear research project at Stratton Ski Area to understand the effects of human development on bear behavior. But that was their decision, and so our role in this process after that decision was made was to make sure that we got the best outcome possible for the bears and the public's interests. And so the way the money came into being was, we said, if you're gonna do a study, then it has to be done to a certain standard. Otherwise, it won't provide any meaningful guidance to the questions at hand. So you gotta use GPS telemetry technology, which is expensive. You can't just stick out strands of barbed wire and collect bear hair snags and make meaningful interpretations about the effect of a project of this scale on a regional population of animals like bears. So it was that sort of led to these other discussions around, okay, well, if that's what we've got to do, what is it going to cost? How do you do that? Because that's become sort of a university research project. Our other position, just, so you have the full understanding of the background of this, is we opposed it. The Public Utility Commission came up with the mitigation requirements. We did not. Because our position was you can't mitigate impacts like this on a resource like that. And I lost my train of thought. Where am I going with that?
Well,
If you don't allow
PUC.
mitigation, then a thing just can't go forward at all, if it can't be avoided and minimized, so then you don't have to even have the fight.
Well, right, but the money became an issue because, the Public Utility Commission needed to understand what's it gonna cost to do the research project, what's it gonna cost to conserve this habitat. We didn't want the public agency having to be responsible for making up for what seemed like the responsibility of the developer. But it just took so long and was so complicated to get the study design correct, to figure out where you got good areas for habitat compensation, that it made more sense for the department to insert itself into the process and provide more guidance and oversight.
Commissioner
I'll
Board.
be very brief because I know you're trying to move on. I think in the absence of mitigation, the Act 250 folks would be in a position of deciding, do we deny this project outright that has already made every effort they can make to avoid and minimize the impact, or do we let it go with no additional compensation or offsets? So I'm not sure they would necessarily always deny. It's a big deal for them to actually deny and block a project altogether. So they'd be faced with that balancing choice. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you.
So I'm thinking that this was a combination of a certain amount of land and some.
Where are those bear now? Did they
Which is
die,
unusual.
basically?
Good, thank you.
No, some of them did, but for different reasons, like some of them got, yeah, there's like, yeah, but sometime should have the bear
at some point we'll
biologist
come in and describe the bear
with the bear
study.
study, because I think,
I remember seeing it last year.
because it's really interesting. It's really interesting.
It's a good.
Anytime. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
It's just so cramped in here.